guys, it's MJ from Alta Love. How are you? I want to talk about the global paradigm shift today because really that's all this is about. So when I was 19 and I had my spiritual, like proper spiritual awakenings, all I knew was that there needed to be a paradigm shift on this planet, which means that like one set of values, like a set of value system and belief system, and it's like the value system was this idea of us valuing external material stuff more than one another and more than the earth. So to me, a very sort of underlying aspect of the global paradigm shift is that our value system changes and our belief systems change as human beings. And one primary aspect of the shift of our value system is that we ourselves become valuable. We ourselves are the valuable beings of this planet, of this realm, and that of course the being of Earth, she becomes super valuable as well. So her resources are valuable in as such as how they serve us and how we serve one another through the distribution of those resources. And you know, really it's that shift of taking, so like the dark ages, not knowing that we're powerful creators, being veiled in this scary world, navigating darkness, navigating blindedness, and then beginning to take off our masks and beginning to take off our veils and remembering who we are. And then by remembering who we are, we have experiences and we bump up against other humans that remind us more about who we are. And then in this recognition, we shine more light. And it's like the shining of our light is what creates the beacon of hope for humanity. Us being able to know the truth of who we are and why we're here and what we're here to share with one another from our hearts, of connecting our mind into that heart space and then expanding that heart field energy out in recognition of our divine unity, then we see changes in our world. We see really positive changes in our world. And every single one of us has like a leap to make, have big turning points in our lives, which sort of squeeze off everything that we don't want anymore and allow us to step into the truth of who we are and our integrity. And recently, I think since sort of really cutting off social media and engaging with that, there's this deepening sense of integrity and knowing and self-love and self-compassion as well, because if we ain't got that love for self, then we really don't got nothing much for one another to give to one another, because it's the love vibration that we're here to give one another, like straight up legit. And that's part of like my like teachings with you guys is like most of my life just make people making fun of me and then flip it around and I'm like, no, I knew all along the truth. And like it's like committing to that and knowing that 100% and then just being that 100%. And I realized that most of the programs I've been out working or conditions that I've been out working have just been areas where I've given my power away to the world, to systems, to people, to men, to women, to whatever. And like, I guess people are men and women. Yeah. And then it was never there. Power was always in me to live the life that I desired to live and that I desired to be and to speak in ways that I wanted to. And it's become, life is so paradoxical that it's kind of wild actually, because everything, it's weird. Everything we're taught to want, sometimes we realize we don't want any of that shit. And then often the more we like chase whatever it is that we think we're chasing, we get to these different milestones and we realize, or we achieve something and we're like, oh, like, it's not a big deal. Or, oh yeah, I was always like this. Or, oh yes, I always knew this wisdom or something. And the thing is, we do all have the wisdom of truth within us, but truth doesn't look like something out there. It doesn't sound like anything, because the truth of our knowing is like beyond words for sure. I would say more of the truth is in our like expanded perception of self, and our inner experiences. I think especially some of the most profound ones are kind of like, as soon as we try to put them into words, they become limited. And I think that's so much the like the world is just this like like people's thoughts and words and feelings, and we're just like, what's going on? And like, so we create a lot of confusion, we create a lot of distortion, right, in our realities. And I don't know, all I can say about the journey is that eventually you'll just get to a point where it's all comical in a sense, and yet mega profound. Like, I cry a lot. Like, I have tears coming through me a lot. I've just gotten to a point where I'm like, oh, there's a storm coming. And I could be alone. I typically only hang out with a very select few of people. Like, I'm talking 2 or 3 people. It's all I really like touch in with. And then other extended. But these people I'm so comfortable in myself with that if there's storms and triggers coming, it's like, oh, shit, hold the phone, gonna cry. Or we do healing together. Or we hold space for one another, and it's all there for us, right? But it's interesting because sometimes when new people kind of dip in, you're like, you realize that they're not like quite sure, and they're, anyway, doesn't really matter. I just wanted to share with you guys that the global paradigm shift is on, and it's not necessarily what we think. And I'm here for you. I'm here for you if you want to talk to somebody about some of your spiritual awakenings. If they're feeling a little bit insane, then I'm here for you. And it's all in you. Like, you know the truth of your own awakening. You know the truth of your own path. No one else can tell you. And this is me just being through many, many different rabbit holes, coming out the other side and being like, oh, it's still just me. Whoa, imagine that. Yeah. And then along the way, especially when we're tapping our own power, I think is when a whole bunch of other shit starts to happen, and people from different dimensions and stuff like that come at you to be like, you can't be powerful, or actually you can or like, and basically all of your darkness, all of your like deepest, darkest stuff really starts to come up because you're owning more of your power. And it's like, but will you own this? And you're like, yes, yes. And then you just keep owning your shit, and then eventually it's literally gonna damn near kill you, or you're gonna get to the point where you're just literally over it. And then suddenly manifestation starts to happen. And I realized this after yesterday's emotional storm. I went outside because I had to get some food because I had no food in the house. Nothing worth eating anyway. And like sauerkraut and sun-dried tomatoes. And then I'm like, I need to get like some pasta or something like this. So I made stew. Anywho, so after like some mega storms processing yesterday, I went out in the afternoon, and it was just like storm by storm. Now I just feel like I'm witnessing a technicolor reality of perfection. I'm like, everyone's aligned, people are beautiful, the world is just this miraculous technicolor dreamboat. And then sometimes I bounce back and people remind me of like there's other things still happening in the world which are troublesome for people. Which is continuation of my own sort of introversion and reclusivity. And my permission slip to you guys of like, if you got some fun times on your own mind and in your own imagination, hang out there, my friend. I permission you. I'm a weirdo loner as well. Ba-ba. And yet I have, and apparently that's a typical Aryan trait. I have like literally, yeah, pretty much like 5, a handful, 3, 4, yeah, like this tight little grouping of people that I feel like I can be myself with, and then I play with and I trust intimately. And my life has just shown me to just observe with greater caution. In the sense of living intuition, it's just about being innocently connected to my intuition and totally loving it and trusting it and not doubting it based on other people's words, because there's distortion in people's energy frequencies, and there's often distortion in people's intention. And I'm learning about that intention, living intuition, listening with the intuition rather than the ears, and then rationalizing your way out of something based on someone else's intention, which may or may not be very clear. And I'm realizing that I've let myself get swept up in fantasy rather than being in the present moment of what is someone's intention. And a lot of times people don't know. And a lot of times we're engaging with people where both parties are just in unconscious programs. They're in overlays. They're in fantasy projections. And I guess it's all kind of fantasy projection, but it's knowing, working with people who are consciously, deliberately creating, so that if you're both going to create like a super awesome manifestation, you're both conscious of it. Rather than kind of, what we do often is we get swept up in something, but then both people are just fantasizing or putting overlays on each other, and then once those overlays come off, we abandon one another. We kind of run away from the situation because it's not what we thought it was, or it doesn't look like how we thought it would look, and so we're like, "Ma!" Oh look guys, I found this. I was going through some massive residue, like feeling shit about myself, basically. Basically, my lifelong pattern of self-loathing and self-disgust was coming back up to the surface, and I was like, I love you! I love you! Even though in the moment I'm like, why are you coming back? So I go to the charity shop. You guys know that I only shop at charity shops, and I have a charity shop across the way from where I live, which is like, honestly, the best fucking charity shop in the world, where they constantly have super fun, like 60s music playing, and all the women in there are just like cool, I don't know, they're just dancing and having a good time. They're all really friendly old ladies and stuff. And like, whenever I go in, I always find stuff, plus I share stuff, like give stuff away to them. But I went into the charity shop and I found some pillows. I found an Audrey Hepburn pillow and this. Can you read it? I felt like I needed this for myself. Just as a daily mantra. Perfect in every way. I permission you to also have that kind of innocent thinking. You are perfect in every way. Every way means every way. It means unconditional. It means even some of the poopy shit that we do. It's okay, you guys. We've got like 7 generations of genetic programming in our bodies. If we're still acting out in pretty barbaric and distorted ways, it's because we're programmed to do so. But if we can awaken to the present moment and be like, wait a minute, I don't want to do this no more, then fortunately we have a way out. All we need to do is sit there and feel the density moving through our bodies, and then let our DNA and our genes be transformed into lighter ones so that we don't act out in that kind of primitive reptilian way no more, because we realize we're all one and we don't need to be afraid of one another, and that we could just create paradise. We could create heaven on earth. Anyway, I know I need to stop when I start to annoy myself by the sound of my own voice. You're perfect in every way, you guys, and I love you to bits. Have an awesome day. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. I love you.